Welcome to Adventures Walking as One, where we explore what it really looks like to walk in the same direction on the same path as husband and wife.
We are Mark and Carol Schweiger of Walk as One Ministries, and we believe marriage is the greatest adventure and one worth preparing for.
Well, I'm super excited today because, as you can see, there's two other people here with us in the studio.
Hello, hello.
Hello, hello.
Hi there.
So we have two of our directors of Walk as One Ministries, and we have our daughter, Brianna, and her husband, Fernie.
Hello.
So we got to tell the audience a little bit about you guys anyway. So the question goes to the guy first because the guy usually doesn't know this. How many years have you been married?
We've been married for 10 years.
Oh,
Got it.
good
You
answer.
got it.
And how many children do you have?
Oh,
We have 4 children and a very large dog.
Yes, you do. It's a giant schnauzer. Beautiful, though. But they're all beautiful.
Thank you.
Children are beautiful, and so are you guys.
oh, thanks.
Thanks for having us.
Well, so welcome. And today we brought you two in here to talk about what are we talking about today?
Serving our children well.
Serving our children well.
Yeah. You know, raising kids is an adventure.
Yes.
It really is.
And I guess that's why we're doing this, right?
Right.
Adventures Walking as One.
Correct. But what does it mean we want to talk about what does it mean to serve well?
Yes. And, you know, when you first brought this up to me, I was like, how we do serving kids? And I started thinking about a servant, and a servant looks after his master's interest. And so it's like, you know, we're not servants to our children. And then I was pointed out to me, Hebrews 7:7. It says, a person who has the power to give a blessing is greater than the one who is blessed. And then if I take that and I add that onto Jesus serving the disciples, he's washing their feet. For me, it's like a servant leader. And so we have somebody who's serving, but they're also setting an example and leading, which would be us as parents. So a servant leader demonstrates to their children how to serve and lead in age-appropriate ways. And I say that because when we brought you two in, you have a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old, right?
Oh, yeah.
Right.
And the world really revolves around them in their minds.
Yes. At that
Especially the
age.
1-year-old. Well, actually the 3-year-old too, right?
Oh, yeah.
Definitely.
They get very egocentric. So, yeah, we need to have the same definition as a servant leader. So what does it look like?
Well, one, you have to be on the same page. And I guess this is kind of consistent with what we've been saying like all along, right? You have to be in unity. You have to have the same definition so that when things start happening, you can fall back on that and say, okay, yeah, this is what direction that we're going in.
Right. Fernie, did you and Brianna have the same definition of serving your children? And how did you guys agree to do things together?
Yeah, I think in our case, you know, first and foremost, since we are followers of Jesus, he is the master servant, and we try to follow his footsteps. And so in doing so, before marriage, we had been given, you know, the opportunity to discuss what our future would look like. So, you know, we look at like Proverbs 24:27. It says, do your planning and prepare your fields before building your house. We feel like it's super important to not just go in on things without planning, at least discussing something. Not everything goes as planned, but at least you have an idea. And you're talking about unity. I think that helps us to align us whenever we feel like we're kind of getting off or veering off. And so planning was definitely something that we talked about, you know, regarding kids and what that would look like. And so we wanted to be able to model a marriage that hopefully our kids would be willing to follow, also would be willing to imitate, per se.
Yeah, right. And that's huge, really. because so few families have that to look
Right.
at
Right.
nowadays. And it's key for kids. At least they have something solid to hold on to.
Yeah. We also found it very important, and maybe as with being part of the church, sometimes we don't talk about this, but even our health is something that we try to look after, whether it be the way we eat, or even working out or doing some type of activity. Especially if we have office jobs, we have to be a little bit more intentional about working out. So that was all part of our discussions and the planning. I think in the planning also, once we had our kids, we went and got a life insurance of sort. And I remember at that moment, her and I talked about it. What does it look like if one of us is gone? Again, planning, looking at the future. And the most important thing for us was we want to make sure our kids find a connection with Jesus, just as we have. I think because he is the one we follow. He is the example to be a servant and the way we live our life. And so for both of us, again, there was an agreement there. There was unity in that. And then in the planning, I think the inspiration did come a lot from, obviously the way we work together, the way we try to treasure each other. How do we do that? I think the influence we had growing up from both of our families was also very helpful in our planning. So that was one of the ways that we approached it.
And I like how you two did this intentionally.
Yeah.
I mean, because otherwise this stuff doesn't happen. You just carry on with life. Oh, we're dating, we're doing all this stuff, and oh, well, we didn't talk about any of that.
Right.
I didn't know you were different than me on that.
But you were very deliberate.
Right.
With what you were doing as you were dating or courting or whatever you want to call it. But it was very intentional, deliberate steps that you took.
Right.
So if I'm looking at this correctly, because you've been doing most of the talking, you're the planner then, right?
Yeah.
And so, Brianna, you are the preparer.
I like to see how it works. How do we actually figure out how to get a game plan going for it? He'll figure out the general idea, the goal, and then I'm like, all right, now what? But before we get to that, I know there are some couples, even some families, you already have kids, you've been married a while, however it is, and they don't have that plan already set. Right. And so I would encourage them, don't worry about it, start now. It's never too late to begin. Even though we had done some of our planning and purposing before we were married, we also did it again when we had kids. We just refocused. But if you have nothing started, start today. So.
That's good. That's very good. Never too late.
I guess some of the things that we do as a couple to prepare, we go on a lot of walks, and we like to talk about things on our walks that keeps things fresh and it keeps us heading toward our goal. We compare our plans and our ideas. So if we come up with ideas and plans and we don't find it in the Bible, we back up and we have to say, all right, is this really God's wisdom, or is this just a good idea that we heard somewhere? There's a lot of trends. There's a lot of ways to parent. There's a lot of ways to lead, and it's not always the way that God designed. And I guess one of the things that I would say we love to look at, no, not really, what do you have to sacrifice? And when you have children, you have to sacrifice a lot.
Yes.
So when we got married, we lived in the mountains in Colorado, and we had a truck, and it just did not do well. And so we needed a new car, and I always wanted a Mini Cooper. And that doesn't seem like the wisest idea for the mountains, but we got an all-wheel drive. I mean, it was so fun to drive. We took it all over. We took it in the mountains where all we could find were like those rugged Jeeps. And then we wondered if we were going to make it out, but it was a blast. And we got pregnant with our first son, and I was like, well, this is still a family car. 5 seats. It's my car. Like, this is my car.
I was surprised how much room was in that car,
Yeah.
actually,
Right.
because the outside they look really small.
It was actually really big, and there was a lot of clearance on the bottom to go over all the snow. I mean, it was perfect.
Yeah. Or so we thought.
Yes. We took our son home from the hospital in his little car seat, and he fit, and everything was great, and I was starting to doubt the Mini Cooper. And then when we got home, we tried to load in a stroller, and the trunk was full. It barely closed. And I realized we had to sacrifice the Mini Cooper for our new child.
The first death.
Yes. We had thought at the time that nothing was really going to change in life, and the kids were just going to be part of our gang and, do the things that we do. And that changed quickly.
Yes.
It's like going from a 2-door to a 4-door. It's like, what?
Right.
Much easier to load with the 4-door.
Yes.
Yeah.
How do you manage stress with your spouse when things are not going as planned? So you've got your plan. Oh, I got you all fired up there on that one.
Chocolate and sex.
Oh, wait a minute.
No more stress.
Wait a minute.
And that's-
Stress-free.
Chocolate and sex. We've been doing it all wrong.
Stress-free living. 4 kids. We're good.
Oh my goodness.
All right, let me tell you about this.
Oh yeah, tell us about it first.
No, I'm kidding.
Well, we know you're a snacker, so
Yeah,
You do like your desserts.
that is true. I won't deny it.
that's like 2 kinds of desserts then, right?
I
Well,
guess.
this is not a sex talk, so we got to...
Oh yeah, okay. Honing in.
Get practical.
Yeah.
So
Well, yeah, I mean, in all honesty, it does help, but also the partnership comes. I think I've heard it said, men sometimes are looking for respect, and maybe that'll help, right? But it helps us also to kind of put our guard down a bit and actually have discussions. Talk about things. Communication has been super important. So whenever we feel like the stress levels are going up, we tend to describe it as I'm the digger, and then I have to figure out where she's at, what's going on. The emotions kind of land somewhere, and so yeah, that's basically how we start with dealing with the stress. Having a conversation. Let's talk, because it's not necessarily that feelings are right or wrong. Feelings are there, right? Feelings are there, but then it's okay. Let's weed out why that feeling is there and
So
why
do
it
you,
started.
do you change your plans? So you have chocolate and sex, or sex and chocolate,
Yeah.
and then you're able to change the plans, or
Do you
do
notice
they?
how it came back to that
Yeah.
again?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We skipped over that one.
Right. I think we're just shifting here.
Yeah. I mean, adapting is definitely part of the journey. It does, we don't know everything. We can't see the future. We don't know what to expect. There's surprises. So being able to adapt, I think one thing I learned from you all is also being willing to be learners of our partners, vice versa, figuring out, okay, this is, where they're at, where I'm at, and having those conversations, to be able to figure out how to help each other throughout whatever it is happening. Whenever she has a little girl that's getting her leg and she's carrying another one, and it's all right, maybe it's time for me to figure out what I can do to help out,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's always changing.
Yeah.
So now that you've got your plan, you're doing your preparations and all that, what practical steps do you do to serve your children? Let's talk about that.
Well, practically speaking, again, she mentioned that we emphasize or want to emphasize in our family a biblical worldview, an approach to life where it's filtered through Scripture. And so we start by that with our kids. Now, I would say every day, but, there's times where we might miss it, but every day we try. We'll have breakfast together, and then we'll have our devotional. Right now we're going through the whole Bible in 1 year and with the kids. And, it's a Bible that's designed for kids. And so it breaks down the stories in a way that they can comprehend them, that they can understand them. And it's really neat because it opens up room for discussion with our kids also. We're not just trying to hammer in something, but it's helping them work out through things. So biblically speaking, that's how we start. We also consider of utmost importance to be part of a body, of church body. And so we go to church, on Sundays. And for us, it's important to give him, God, our first. And so that's why we choose Sundays. It's the first day of the week. And so we want to be able to start off that way. We start our mornings by, reading scripture. We start our week by going to church and exemplifying that to our kids.
Now, we're both home a lot, but I am the stay-at-home mom, homeschool mom, and I deal with a lot of the tension that kids have with siblings, issues that they encounter, and we've really kind of adopted this, if you have an issue, let's look at it in the Bible. We actually sit down with them, find verses that say, God says this is wrong, what you're doing. And then instead of just leaving it there and say, don't do it because God says it's wrong, we look up the verses that say this is what God wants you to do instead. Good. These are the good things to become, to put on, to do, to treat your siblings, And sometimes it's an offense that happens to them. It's not just something they do. We treat it the same way. Right. It's a correction, discipline. There's a verse, 2 Timothy 3:16. It says, all scripture is inspired by God and is useful to teach us what is true, to make us realize what is wrong in our lives. It corrects us when we are wrong and teaches us to do what is right. So we try to bring that in to all the daily, we would say they're just little kid issues, but that is what is shaping their character and how they're going to become as adults. So
you're laying that foundation.
Exactly.
It's a strong foundation.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
That's good.
Aside from the biblical stuff, we think it's really important for the kids to learn real life skills, physically doing things, chores, cooking, cleaning, helping out with projects. If Bernie's using some tools, we try to involve our son, who's a little bit older. Well, he's 8, but still, we think he's responsible enough now to help out in a few different ways. When he was 7, our family got hit with some sort of stomach bug, and it was bad. It was so bad. Fernie and I could not get out of bed. We had a baby, we had a little kid, and then we had him. And they were okay, and we were hit hard. And the baby was still in the crib, diapers, all of that. And so Ben, our son, 7 at the time, changed the diapers, changed the kids, got them ready for the day. I'm pretty sure he brushed their teeth. Whatever he did, he did everything. Yeah. He made us food throughout the whole day. He had learned how to use the stove correctly, use knives correctly in the kitchen. So he made scrambled eggs.
Trusting.
Well, from the time he was actually younger than 2, we were working with him. Yeah. He would come alongside us. We would have to stop what we were doing, teach, go very slow, make things get messed up everywhere, and allow for that.
Yeah.
So that's like major patience, right? Because I can't see like a 3-year-old cracking an egg. I'd be like,
We've lost many eggs. We've chewed many shells.
Oh, yeah.
So, but to go through that for several years, but to go through that and then all of a sudden you can't get out of bed and your 7-year-old's taking care of the whole house.
Yeah, that says a lot, actually.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
And so I know there are days he does not want to do the things we are asking him, but he is capable. And it makes us proud that we have served him in a way that we have given him skills he can already use.
Right.
So.
Yeah, that's huge. That's huge.
Yeah. In serving, though, I think I would want to share that we've tried to adopt the opposite of what probably is heard sometimes, where it's like, do as I say, not as I do.
Yeah.
Well, in our case, I think it's easier to learn if you demonstrate, right? So I would say, it might be easier for us to take our kids and drop them off at church, right? And we'll pick you up later. But what are they going to see, Right. Also, we try to demonstrate to them what forgiveness looks like, and meaning sometimes we'll make mistakes.
Yeah.
And we are willing to just admit that and say, you know what, we messed up. We could have done better. We could have approached that differently, and we're sorry, you know. That has gone, I think, a long way, because it softens even them to the way we approach them in certain, situations or circumstances that we want to correct. But, it also keeps us accountable, where we're like making sure, hey, maybe that was a little too rough, or hey, maybe that was a little too harsh, or maybe we could have done something differently, right? So, but again, the whole point of this is, going back even to adapting. It's okay. What could we have done differently? And every child is different, so the approach has to adapt according to the child. Sometimes, it's not cookie cutter. It's not everything the same. So serving our children well, just like we have to learn our spouse, we have to learn our kids.
For sure.
I think the proverb says, you got to teach them in their way,
right? And
each way is different.
Yes.
Yes, with a good foundation, but where is the Lord leading them, and how do we facilitate that for them?
Excellent. That's good.
So I'd like to move on to, so we talked about the little kids, and now we got to talk about some bigger kids.
The bigger kids.
Oh, boy.
One of them sitting here at the table with us.
What it looks like on our end, as having all of our kids grown, but we're still serving them, right? We're still serving them. So, what does that look like?
And the hardest part, I think, for us, understanding our role at this point. What do we do? How do we interact with your adult kids now? And if we start parenting you, I don't think you're going to be too happy with that. Well, you might be. You're a little.
I'm usually okay with it.
Yeah, you're a little milder child.
You're the easy one.
Your siblings may not be so well with that at all. But what is our role? How do we deal with things? One of the critical things, I think, is the assumptions. You can't make assumptions about why you're doing stuff. We actually have to talk about it. Have those conversations. How do we deal with these things? And
one thing is just being available. If you need to talk about things, we just want to make sure we're available, but we're not going to butt in. If we see, gee, they could really, if they did this, but it's like, no, give them their space. If they need to know, they will ask, and then we'll offer. Every now and then we might offer or suggest. But giving you that respect and honor as an adult, but we're here.
You've balanced it well in our family, where you've offered advice in times where we didn't ask, but we needed it. We didn't know how to ask. So you've been able to kind of look and see, when do I offer this advice? And I'm just going to wait and see what they do.
It's a difficult balance for sure. One of my son-in-laws, he says, "Well, Dad, will you ever tell me if I'm doing something wrong?" I was like, "Well, if it's really bad, it's like something's going to get hurt or something, then yes. But it's like, where do you not butt in?" And I think that's where we have the conversations for that.
Yeah, and trying not to interfere. I think some adults might have difficulty with this, especially if it's, let's just say there's a poor level of leave and cleave in the relationship, maybe with a son and a mom, where I see that more often, but the mom doesn't know when to let go. She doesn't know when to stop butting in, right? And there's you need to take a scissors to that umbilical cord. Chop that right off.
That's where the boundaries books comes in.
It does.
So.
Yeah, and really setting boundaries, but also respecting how you parent has been a big deal, because now we got grandkids, and like you said, you got the 4 kids, so it's how do they parent? Well, you parent this way. We've got 2 other adult children that have kids, and they parent differently.
Yes.
They were all raised in the same family, but it doesn't matter, because together they're blended with their spouse, and it's going to look different. So respecting how they parent and trying to implement those measures when they come to our home, but realizing, wait a minute, you're in my home, I have these boundaries. So that's part of that communication too, to make sure everybody understands, we're not jumping on the couch, guys, we just spent how much money, but, but having boundaries, and they're reasonable boundaries, right? Not ridiculous boundaries.
I remember one, so there was, I think it was no snacks before dinner. And I think it was Espy, your 3-year-old, I think then 2. And I was just like, it was like one cracker, just one cracker. And she wouldn't eat her dinner then. And I was like, what, with one cracker? I mean, I'm the grandparent. I'm supposed to be able to give them candy and all this stuff.
Yeah.
So
we try to honor him, not give him too many snacks, or especially sugar, especially
I didn't know
if we're
about
watching
that.
them.
I didn't know about the cookie or the cracker thing until she didn't eat her dinner, and then I found out.
And then the other element of not just having adult parents, but, children, it's the grandkids that come with them. And how do we serve the grandkids in our element? So, we want to be a good example is the first thing. That's primary. Just like being a parent, you want to be a great example as a grandparent. For me, it was very important to establish strong relationships. That's a redemptive work because I didn't have grandparents and that kind of thing. So that was extremely important to me, and it's important to you too.
And that's one of our common goals now,
Right.
to do things with the grandkids that'll build character, spend time with them.
Yeah.
We get to go ice skating with them. My one grandson, he was like a bowling ball at the time. If you're out on the ice with a bowling ball, it's not good.
Look out.
He just wants to take everything down.
He does.
That was,
He still does.
yeah. He's a little bit bigger now, so I don't go out on the ice with him anymore.
No, especially in the net. But we like to do adventures with them and have fun. And I'm not below getting on the floor with them either. You know, as
wrestling.
long as I can do it, I'm doing it.
Wrestling.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
But we also like the teachable moments, right? When we having conversations with them, or maybe we could just show them something new. I love that. But our main goal, what?
I was thinking of Ben with the excavator Lego model, and you have to get the kids where they're at. And I hadn't grown up with him, but I knew Ben well enough, and I know he likes Legos, so we were going to build an excavator, but it was complicated, and so I started building it with him, and I tried to keep it, a couple days project so that we work on a little bit at a time, but I way overestimated his attention span. So we're doing things according to instructions, and then he gets bored. He says, "Well, Papa, why don't we just take these and put it up here on this?" And it's like, no, it's not going to work. It's not going to work. But, he's got a brain that wants to think, well, I guess you could say out of the box maybe nowadays.
Yeah.
But that was all part of learning to be a grandparent and catching them where they're at.
Yeah.
But our goal as grandparents and with adult children is to leave a strong legacy. That is definitely our goal. That's our imprint. We want it to be a lasting legacy.
Ooh, well, we've covered a lot.
There was a lot in this,
lot.
episode.
Oh, yeah.
Thanks for hanging in there.
No problem.
But you know what? It does take planning, and it takes a lot of preparation, and then putting it into practice to serve our kids and to serve them well. And, that also helps to keep your relationship strong, which is so good. But go ahead.
So we hope that you have learned something about serving your kids well, that you'll be able to apply some of these in your own home.
Maybe your kids are grown, or you have grandchildren of your own. How are you influencing them? Has this encouraged you maybe to make an impact for the next generations?
And we're going to have Bree and Fernie back for a future podcast.
We'll be back.
We're going to be talking about walking as one through major life changes. That should be exciting.
Oh,
We've
yeah.
had a few.
We've had a few.
A lot can happen in a year, right?
A lot can
yeah.
happen in a year, especially
for
in
sure.
10 years.
Yeah.
But we thank you for joining us on this episode of Adventures Walking as One. Please subscribe and share this with a friend. Visit our website at walkasone.net.
Thank you for listening to a WBRW TV produced podcast in Washington Township, Michigan. Our podcast can be found on Spotify, and our video programming can be watched on WBRWTV.com or on our broadcast channels in Washington, Bruce, and Romeo on Comcast and AT&T. If you're interested in using our podcast space or have any ideas of your own for a podcast, reach out to us now at WBRWpodcast@gmail.com. For more information on our organization, our content, or how you can get involved, visit WBRWTV.com. The opinions, findings, conclusions, or recommendations expressed in this program do not necessarily reflect the views of the Charter Township of Washington, Michigan Community Media, or WBRW-TV.